now, the moment you've all been waiting for, it's taken me 37 fucking minutes to get here. We're going to talk about supplements. First, I'm going to share some speculative information that I am not certain I agree with. And it's very important that I share information with you that I'm not certain that I agree with, because I want to be as balanced and unbiased as possible, because I don't own an MLM pyramid scheme fucking ketone company telling people I can protect them from coronavirus. Nah, not that guy, okay? So we're going to talk balanced and unbiased here. So first, we're going to talk pre-infection. This is the vast majority of us right now are not currently living with a coronavirus infection that we know of. We probably don't have symptoms, at least, right? So pre-infection, we talk about vitamins A and D, okay? So I'm talking about vitamins A and D. Now, I talked about coronavirus infecting the cells by hijacking that substance known as ACE2, this ACE2 receptor on the cell, right? Vitamins A and D help us make more ACE2, which is normally fantastic for your immune system. It's actually critical for the immune system. But now we have some people suggesting that if we massively overdo vitamins A and D, it could give coronavirus more opportunities to get into the cells because it will increase the activity of ACE2 receptors on the cells. I wanted to put that out there. For me personally, I believe the risk versus reward of that hypothesis is extremely lopsided here. So all of the data we have suggests metabolic dysfunction to be the primary driver of complications. Hypertension, type 1 and 2 diabetes, right? Full-blown diabetes, insulin resistance, 88% of the population, metabolic dysfunction. That's what's screaming at us, looking us right in the face. Metabolic dysfunction is the problem for complications, right? We also know that no known substance is going to prevent us from the infection, and there's no innate immunity. So to say, well, if we have too much vitamin A and vitamin D, you're at a higher risk of infection. We're all already at risk of infection, right? So why are we focusing on trying not to get infected when we know nothing is going to prevent us from getting infected, right? It's basically guaranteed at this point that something like 60 to 70% of the population will get infected before natural immunity kicks in, this thing that they call herd immunity, right? So to suggest that we limit foods high in vitamin A and vitamin D seems like a recipe for disaster to me personally, not a doctor, because the foods highest in A and D are micronutrient-dense animal foods, such as red meats and organs. Gram for gram, the most micronutrient-dense foods on the planet and the most bioavailable, right? And when a large percentage of your diet is made up of those animal foods, we see drastic improvements in insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. It improves overall metabolic health. So my concern here is people are going to hear things like, you don't want to overdo it with vitamin A and vitamin D, and it scares the hell out of them, and they go back to eating Pop-Tarts. That's a real problem. So a proper plan for overall health is the correct approach here. Not a myopic approach, a specific supplement that you think is going to save you, blah, blah, blah. That's not advisable. An overall great nutrition protocol, which involves animal foods that are very high in vitamins A and vitamin D, okay? If you ask me, not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm going to say that 500 times in this episode. I'm a normal dude, all right? Now, like I said, I have spent a lot of time reviewing scientific literature, and everything I've seen points to vitamins A and D being very beneficial for overall immune system health. Now, I am not suggesting in any way that vitamin A or vitamin D is going to prevent coronavirus or treat COVID-19 if you're infected. But the idea that these vitamins could be harmful for coronavirus, in my opinion, is highly speculative and would only be true in the presence of metabolic dysfunction, particularly if you're getting these vitamins from whole foods and not from supplement extracts. So now, this was right? If we're talking pre-infection. Now, there are a couple, again, I'm not saying I agree with this, but there are a couple of other problems post-infection. Vitamin C, an African herb called umca. I feel weird every time I say that. And what we talked about in a previous podcast that someone brought up, bee propolis. So vitamin C, umca, and bee propolis. Some people think that these can be problematic post-infection. I want to be clear about that. Don't freak out because you're taking a vitamin C supplement. I take a vitamin C supplement, okay? So post-infection, they're saying that this could increase something called interferon, which is a trigger for the cytokine storm I described earlier, right? It's basically an inflammatory trigger. The kids shoplifting the grocery store, the drone strike, blah, 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 blah. Again, this is speculative, but the suggestion is that increasing interferon might increase the severity of a lung infection once the infection has already occurred. I personally, not a doctor, don't believe that means we need to limit these things if we are not infected or not showing symptoms, particularly respiratory symptoms, okay? This is maddening. Have you guys realized this yet? Why this is absolutely maddening, right? The nonsense that you see running around on the web, like people claiming that they know what the fuck they're talking about. Like I said, vitamin A and vitamin D are critical for proper immune system health, but some people suggest that they might, I repeat, might make us more susceptible to coronavirus specifically. Vitamin C is also critical for human health. Not only that, China has shown promising results giving super high dose IV therapy vitamin C in coronavirus patients, as much as 24,000 milligrams per day. And yet some people think that us popping a bunch of vitamin C capsules could result in increased interferons, which could further aggravate the body's immune response, the drones, and the grocery store, okay? While at the same time, those interferons actually play a direct role in improved outcomes with coronavirus because interferons are a healthy part of an acute inflammatory response to infection. But what SARS coronavirus does that's very interesting is it inhibits the normal interferon response while the virus is spreading. And then on the back end, can overactivate the system with interferons and completely flood it, again, drone strike on the grocery store. So in SARS coronavirus, interferon activity can actually promote death. This stuff's crazy. Now, on top of that, another check in the pro column for vitamin C is, as I mentioned in an earlier episode, vitamin C also inhibits inflammasomes called NLRP3, just like melatonin does, which could be helpful for preventing coronavirus infection and potentially treating COVID-19. What? So much data. Then we have zinc and elderberry. Zinc and elderberry can have fantastic results with cold and flu, sometimes stopping them completely. Sometimes this doesn't work at all. UMCA and bee propolis can decrease the severity of colds and shorten the lifespan of a cold in your system, but might actually make lung damage, specifically from coronavirus, more severe. I mean, what the hell, man? Do you see how crazy this is? It's like the people that are lying to you online, we got to stop letting people just make claims, man. There's got to be some kind of, people got to be held responsible for this nonsense, right? So what I want to teach you right now is how to narrow your scope of research as you're trying to sort through this insanity, okay? So something that I found in the data is that when you're researching what to do for coronavirus, for SARS coronavirus 2, I'm not going to keep saying that. When I say coronavirus, I'm talking about this coronavirus, okay, for the rest of the episode. So when researching what to do for coronavirus, the first thing you should know is that the biology of the current coronavirus is about is about 87% identical to the virus that caused the SARS outbreak in 2003, which was again actually named SARS coronavirus. So again, what we're dealing with right now is SARS coronavirus 2, which causes COVID-19. Now, for this reason, you should be searching for preventative measures and treatments that have been proven effective with SARS. That will give you the best odds in terms of whether or not the suggested protocol might help or harm the current coronavirus, might be helpful or harmful with the current coronavirus, okay? So this is a pretty good place to start, right? There are no blanket statements. I'm not saying this is 100% perfect, but this is a damn good place to start. You look for things that are effective for SARS coronavirus. The biology of this thing, what they called homology, is 87% identical to that of SARS coronavirus, right? Now, we're gonna get into supplements, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see some comments here. I'm probably gonna go over 9 p.m. again. What else we got? Cold showers, science class, horrible analogy. I think it's a fantastic analogy. That's a very good analogy. I'm happy with it. What are food sources of vitamin A and vitamin D? Organ meats. Hands down, top, liver, tops the charts on vitamins A and vitamin D. Michelle, okay, she's in the medical field. We give 1,500 milligrams IV every 6 hours of vitamin C to all our specific patients, and now COVID-19 too. Exactly, right? This is the maddening stuff. Some people suggesting that vitamin C is a problem post-infection, but then we're giving it intravenously. I'm in the pro-vitamin C column. I'm going to tell you. Like I told you, I'm going to give you differing opinions. I gave you differing. I am in the pro-vitamin A, the pro-vitamin D, and the pro-vitamin C camp. Me, personally. That's where I fall. But I have to give you guys this information. You got to do some digging around for yourself, okay? It's super crazy, and the data and notes from physicians who have seen positive results changes daily. Exactly. Judy, damn if you do, damn if you don't. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. There you go. Kimberly Thompson, hydroxychloroquine. Yes, we're going to talk about chloroquine too. Study release 40 of 40 were cured within 6 days. That's not entirely true. No. Kimberly, I'm going to correct you on that because it's just that the people that were taking chloroquine were no longer contagious. That's what we were dealing. The study that came out of France, that was that, and actually it wasn't even all of them. So the people that got chloroquine, only 25% of them were still contagious 6 days later. The group that did not get chloroquine, 100% of them were still contagious 6 days later. That's not a cure. That is not a cure. We got to be very, very careful when we say things. Not a cure, okay? For vitamin A, there you go, Maddie. Grass-fed organs are best and grass-fed meat too. Vitamin D, wild-caught salmon, cod liver, sardines, pasture-raised egg yolks, and mushrooms. Boom, nailed it, buddy. Love it, absolutely love it. Things are in my repertoire every single day. And we're going to talk about what I do every day as well. So now let's dig into specific supplements, okay? Specific supplements. There are very, very few that I'm going to say are just like, these seem to be really, really solid, okay? Now, I had my mind changed on this one, but not entirely. We're going to talk about elderberry. Guys, you don't need to go get elderberry syrup that has 36 grams of sugar per 2 tablespoons. You don't need to do that, okay? I literally think some people think elderberry is an excuse to have like a sugar soft drink or something. Like I'm just going to put a bunch of elderberry in my water and it's delicious, right? It's like you can get capsules. I recommend capsules. But anyway, elderberry has been shown it can directly block the virus from attaching to ACE2, right? So we know the virus attaches to ACE2. That's how it infects the cell. Elderberry can block this. It means it cannot dock to the cell and initiate the infection. This is true of other coronaviruses. It is an assumption at this point that it would be true for the current coronavirus, SARS coronavirus 2. This is an assumption. We don't know anything. This is an assumption based on other coronaviruses. Now, safe bet here for myself. Remember, I'm not suggesting you do this. I'm not a doctor. I'm a normal guy. I play piano, everybody. I use a lot of profanity, okay? Safe bet. 1,000 milligrams per day. I personally have started doing 500 milligrams in the morning, 500 milligrams at night in capsule form, okay? I recommend capsule form for sure to reduce this massive sugar load. It's ridiculous the amount of sugar in some of these elderberry products. It's absolutely insane, okay? Zinc, we're going to talk about zinc. Zinc comes next, okay? So we have elderberry, we have zinc. I know, my handwriting's terrible, guys. Just, boop. That's a colon. 3rd grade joke, get it? Okay, zinc. Zinc was very effective against SARS, again, 87% identical. Zinc was very effective against SARS, and it's a safe bet. It's a safe bet that against the current coronavirus. It's pretty safe to assume that it's going to be very effective against coronavirus the same way it was for SARS. But zinc is different from elderberry in that it does not offer prevention. Once the virus has made its way into the cell, zinc prevents the virus from replicating, okay? Obviously, this is critical for preventing the systemic spread of the infection. My favorite source of zinc is oysters. I love oysters. I know some people don't. There are also oyster capsules you can actually take, right? I love oysters. I eat a can of oysters probably twice a week. I don't eat like a ton of them. And the other thing I want to tell you about oysters is if I have a can of oysters, I only eat 2 oysters at a time. So I'll break this up at multiple meal times, okay? And I say this because you can only absorb a small amount of zinc per meal. So if you just take 6 oysters and eat them all, you're only going to absorb the zinc from really 2 of those oysters. So don't waste that precious zinc. You can only absorb so much per meal. There are oyster extract pills, like I said, but honestly, you can just take a zinc supplement. So I take a zinc supplement every single day. The one that I use is Jarrow Formulas. It's called Zinc Balance, and that's because it has zinc and copper. So we're going to talk about copper in a second, but it also has zinc methionine. It's a specific type of zinc, okay? So I use Jarrow Zinc Balance, and what you want to do, particularly if you're showing symptoms, is seven to 10 milligrams, 4 times a day. Again, this is for me. I keep saying what you want to do, but this is just for me, guys. This is not medical advice. Don't do what I'm telling you. This is for me. I'm just taking notes for myself here, sharing my journey, everybody. But that's what I would want to do is 7 to 10 milligrams, 4 times a day if I were showing symptoms. Now we're going to talk about copper. Running out of room down here. But it's okay. I don't have a whole lot of notes on copper. Copper and zinc basically need to be balanced. Now, all my nurses and doctors here, you're going to know what I'm about to say. Copper absolutely destroys coronavirus. It's wonderful. That's basically a magic mineral when it comes to these viruses. Kills countless other viruses too. It's extremely antibacterial. Now, I'll give you some statistics here. Well, I guess we'd call it antiviral in this case. Current data is showing, and this is another thing I was wrong about. Current data is showing that coronaviruses can survive on surfaces for 5 to 9 days. Huh? That's gross, man, which is way worse than we initially thought, and that's awful. On copper, coronavirus is dead within 5 to 30 minutes. Boom, that's awesome, right? Copper and zinc should be balanced, and they should be balanced somewhere between a 10-to-1 and a 15-to-1 ratio. I honestly get about a 15-to-1 ratio, and I'm totally cool with that. I'm not particularly worried about it, meaning that for every 10 milligrams of zinc, you want to get 1 milligram of copper. Or for what I do is every 15 milligrams of zinc, you want to get 1 milligram of copper. That's why I use zinc balance, because every capsule of zinc balance has 15 milligrams of zinc methionine, and it has 1 milligram of copper. Perfect. I love it. You know what else has copper? You can get 2 milligrams of copper from 56 grams of 90% dark chocolate. Booyah! Dark chocolate for the win. Love it. All right. So that's it, everybody. We talked about supplements. That was an exciting episode. Wow. Whoa. Right? Okay. We're going to continue. I'm just kidding. There's more than that, right? But that is like super solid, super comfortable. I'm super comfortable for myself. Zero complications. Nobody claiming that these things are bad in any way. Nobody freaking out about vitamin A, D, C, blah, blah, propolis, whatever. Nobody freaking out. This is like super safe bet for me. I'm totally 100% comfortable using all of these in these doses. I'm going to do that. Okay. Now, this is hashed out, proven, that kind of thing. So we're going to dig into speculative / maybe beneficial. We're going to go deeper, and we're going to name a lot more supplements here, including A, D, K, all those things, the things that I believe are super beneficial. So another one is garlic, but particularly there's a chemical in garlic that I don't even know how the hell to say. Allicin, I think. I'm going to say allicin like the name, right? So garlic is a well-known antimicrobial. In fact, I know guys that have treated staph infections from jiu-jitsu with topical garlic. It's crazy. I knew one guy that fell asleep with topical garlic on a staph infection he had from jiu-jitsu mats, and he woke up with like 2nd or 3rd degree burns. It's like, this thing it's staggeringly powerful, right? It's crazy. But anyway, allicin is the chemical most responsible for the antimicrobial effects of garlic. But the crazy thing is it has to be activated, right? Which means you have to either crush up the garlic or dice it up, like take a garlic clove, crush it up, dice it up, leave it out in open air, room temperature for like 10 to 20 minutes before you ingest it. Now, plant toxin, there are a lot of plant toxins like this. People talk about sulforaphane and broccoli. Sulforaphane is only activated when the broccoli plant is basically being attacked. It's defense mechanism, right? These plant toxins are defense mechanism. So the second thing here is once allicin is activated, you got to eat it, because heating or cooking it in a meal will destroy the beneficial compound. So, I mean, I guess you could just put it in water and down it, or chew on garlic if you like the taste of raw garlic. I don't know. But I want to be clear, this one is very speculative, okay? So we're saying, again, we're now talking about things that are quite speculative, okay? There's no data for allicin on coronaviruses, but it's crazy effective for other respiratory viruses, such as colds, bronchitis, and pneumonia. So the safe bet here would be, what is it? 180 micrograms of allicin daily. And that's, the garlic's kind of tricky, so I recommend getting stabilized allicin. You can get an actual supplement called stabilized allicin, and that'd be 180 micrograms per day. That's what I would do, not medical advice. Now we're going to talk again about vitamin C. In my opinion, this is not speculative. I do not think the benefits of vitamin C are speculative. I just don't. It's a little paradoxical here because I warned you that some people have these warnings about vitamin C, but again, the poison is in the dose, right? You still want to be getting a normal intake of vitamin C. I'm not saying that you need to take 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C, particularly if you're not dealing with any symptoms of infection. So you've heard me talk a lot about hyperphysiological doses of supplements being potentially harmful in some cases, and this could be one of those cases, according to some people. That's speculative. That's a hypothesis, in my opinion, right? The idea of activating interferon and the immune response and all these things. Now, we're going to talk about safe bet. We're going to talk how I personally handle vitamin C. So I'm going to put safe bet. Safe bet, vitamin C from Whole Foods. You can do this. You can get, 2 servings of broccoli is like 150 milligrams of vitamin C. I think like 3 servings of Brussels sprouts is like 150 milligrams of vitamin C. What I personally do, and I know Matt's here in the Facebook Live, is I take Paleo Valley Essential C Complex, and I take it twice per day. Now, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's 450 milligrams of vitamin C, not ascorbic acid, is from Whole Foods, right? So 450 milligrams of vitamin C per dose. I'm taking that 2 times a day, which means I'm getting 900 milligrams of vitamin C. And then whatever vitamin C I'm getting in my diet, guys, I'm virtually 95% carnivore at this point. So I'm not eating a whole bunch of vegetables. I just ate some vegetables. My mom cooked dinner. I just had a bunch of asparagus. So that was delicious. But anyway, yes. So I use Paleo Valley. You guys get a discount on that as Clovis members. And a safe bet, in my opinion, I'm totally comfortable doing 2 doses of Paleo Valley Essential C per day. That's about 9 milligrams. But I feel totally comfortable taking 1,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C. 1,000 milligrams per day. So I'm probably hitting that exact number because you do get some vitamin C, particularly if you're taking like organ meats and red meats and things like this. There is some amount of vitamin C in collagen, things like that with these animal products. So I'm probably getting about 1,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C, most of it coming from the Paleo Valley supplement, okay? So another thing that I want to mention here, this is very interesting. Fellas, you're going to like this one. This also has a bunch of other compounding benefits in the human body. I have been taking this personally for over 2 years, and it just seems to be a good idea overall for this particular coronavirus. So I'll make sure I spell these right. L-Citrulline and L-Arginine. These are nitric oxide boosters. Okay, so we'll say this boosts NO. Like I said, fellas out there, if you bought an over-the-counter Viagra alternative, if you turn the bottle around and look at the bottle, it's just going to be a super heavy dose of L-Citrulline and L-Arginine. These are nitric oxide boosters. Viagra is basically like the ultimate nitric oxide booster, okay? And nitric oxide has been associated with decreasing the harm done to the lungs by SARS coronavirus. This also inhibits the replication of SARS coronavirus in the cell. Now, to be clear, what I'm actually citing here, this decreased harm in the lungs and all these things, I'm citing nitric oxide, the gas, okay? The most potent nitric oxide treatment for SARS was inhaled nitric oxide gas, literally huffing nitric oxide for inflammatory airway diseases. Now, obviously, I'm not going to tell you to start huffing nitric oxide. I'm not going to just randomly huff. What am I going to do? Whippets and get whipped cream? I'm not going to do that, right? So I have been taking L-Citrulline and L-Arginine in pretty high doses for over 2 years. Now, I've been doing that because of the potential cardiovascular benefits after studying the work of Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, because my family has a history of serious cardiovascular events, and I'm trying like hell to avoid that. So for the cardiovascular benefits, I'm taking a lot of these things. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to give you a safe bet that I feel comfortable with, and I'll tell you what I'm doing. So safe bet is, I know what I do, but I can't remember the range. 1,500 to 3,000 milligrams of L-Arginine. Spelled it wrong. But anyway, 1,500 to 3,000 milligrams of L-Arginine, and I'm doing that daily. And I'm also doing 250 to 1,000 milligrams of L-Citrulline. Now, I give you this range because I'm actually doing 3,000 milligrams a day of L-Arginine and 1,000 milligrams per day of citrulline, and I've been doing that for like 2 years straight, well before coronavirus. Love it. Great stuff. Awesome. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about, and we talked about this in a previous podcast, inhibiting the inflammasome called NLRP3. Vitamin C does this. So again, we just talked about vitamin C, which I think is totally beneficial. Vitamin C, and we're going to talk about melatonin. Now, melatonin apparently also inhibits that same inflammasome called NLRP3. Now, in a healthy person, 0.5 milligrams, half a milligram a day seems to be plenty. Most supplements have very, very high dosage. You'll see these from like 3 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams. I actually have a supplement here that's 10 milligrams of melatonin. This is why I really like the On It melatonin spray. I think 6 sprays is 3 milligrams, which means it's very easy to break up one spray at a time. Like one spray would be 0.5 milligram. So you can just kind of experiment what helps you and what helps you sleep. It's an added benefit there, right? So if infected, that amount changes significantly. And they say you can use up to 50 milligrams per day because there's really no downside. You can't really overdose melatonin, right? So safe bet. What I am doing personally, I'm doing 5 milligrams per day, and I'm doing that 1 to 2 hours before I want to sleep. Don't make the mistake of taking melatonin the moment you want to go to sleep. Everybody does that and then thinks melatonin doesn't work for them. But anyway, take it 1 to 2 hours before you want to be sleeping. So I'm taking 5 milligrams a day because why not? There's no I don't normally dose melatonin. Since coronavirus, I have been dosing melatonin. So melatonin is one that I've added since coronavirus. Elderberry is one that I've added since coronavirus. Everything else I've already been doing, okay? So again, we talked about that chloroquine. I was about to dig into this speculative treatments. So chloroquine, I'll spell it for you. I'll put it up here. Chloroquine or chloroquine, I can't remember, but chloroquine, everyone's been talking about this. This is actually in like tonic water. It's kind of interesting, but it's a speculative treatment. There was a French researcher who posted a pretty hopeful study, and this is one saying that he actually supplemented 600 micrograms. So here, I'll put this up here, 600 micrograms. Supplemented 600 micrograms in patients for 10 days. And after 6 days, 100% of patients who did not receive chloroquine were all still contagious, while just 25% of the patients who received chloroquine were still contagious. And then an American study concurred and found the same findings and showed that chloroquine decreased overall infection time and decreased the length of hospital stays. So chloroquine, I don't know about preventative, but it appears to be fantastic in terms of treatment for COVID-19. So that's really interesting stuff. So again, we talked about like the potential things, vitamin A, vitamin D. For me, vitamin A is totally a safe bet. So let's look at vitamin A and vitamin D, and we can talk about total levels here. So if we look at vitamins A and vitamin D, again, kind of paradoxical because there's some data that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think that data, again, is only in people with severe metabolic dysfunction anyway, but since that's 88% of the population, I think I can give some more details here. So vitamin A, probably 3,000 IU daily, okay? Now, vitamin A, this is retinol. This is only found in animal foods. When people tell you that you can get a bunch of vitamin A from plants, when the vegans and vegetarians try to tell you that shit, they're not being honest with you, because you have to take the number of like beta carotene, you have to take the number of vitamin A from plant foods and divide it by 20. Look at the nutrition facts, divide it by 20. That's how much retinol you're actually gonna get out of that. It's ridiculous. You have to eat endless mounds of vegetables or sweet potatoes to try to get any notable amount of vitamin A. So you can only get this from animal foods, right? So 3,000 IU per day, no, you probably wanna eat some liver. I would say eat some liver. And then vitamin D, right? Same thing. So we'll talk about liver. Like vitamin D, I generally want to see people get anywhere from like 2,000 to 4,000 IU per day. So 2,000 to 4, okay. I know I'm writing a lot of notes here, but 2,000 to 4,000 IU per day. I've hyperdosed vitamin D3 plus K2. I've done as much as 25,000 IU per day for long periods of time. I mean, I've done 25,000 IU per day for months. I have no fear of vitamin D. I have no fear of vitamin A. I would just say a safe bet here, if you want to get the happy medium, if I wanted to get the happy medium and not worry about the overdosing side of things and not worry about not having enough of these things to activate the immune system, then I would eat probably 1 to 2 ounces of liver every other day to be super safe. Generally speaking, I eat like 2 ounces of liver a day, right? So maybe you want to do 1 to 2 ounces every 2 days or 1 to 2 ounces every 3 days, like put 2 days space out between, but liver is hands down the best way to get these things. But my preferred method of vitamin D is sunshine. Easy, free, get naked, go stand in your backyard. Not kidding. It's cold in Nashville still. It was really warm today, but it's overcasty. And I just go outside in shorts, no shirt on. I sit there, read a Kindle, sip some coffee, whatever I got to do. I do that if it's 30 degrees, everybody. I don't care, right? So go outside, get some sunshine. I would say 15 minutes. of direct sun exposure every single day, as much skin as you can show. Get outside, get vitamin D from the sun. Use the D-Minder app. D-Minder, if you need help. It's crazy. In 2020, we need apps to tell us how to get proper sunlight exposure. That's the world we live in, everybody, okay? So again, we talked about vitamin C, beet propolis, things you might want to avoid if there's an infection, but I actually don't necessarily agree with that, right? I think that this hyperdosing of IVs all around the world, mega dosing vitamin C, that's probably some damn good data that we have there, right? Rather than this speculative hypothesis. I just want you guys to know these things because they're floating around on the internet, and I know it's confusing. And I know you guys are going to email me about this. You're going to say, I saw this article about vitamin D. I saw this article about vitamin C. And I'm going to go, yeah, look at all these research papers of hyperdosing intravenous vitamin C, right? We don't really know. For me, I'm taking the crap out of some vitamin C. It's happening.